Most people pull it out without thinking. It grows along the walkway, creeps between the pavers, sprouts uninvited near the front door. You yank it up, toss it in the yard waste bin and move on. Nuisance plant. No value. Get rid of it. Except that same plant was tested in a peer-reviewed clinical trial against the #1 FDA-approved hair loss treatment on the market. 100 patients, 6 months. Measured, documented, verified. The plant matched the treatment, statistically equivalent. No significant difference in hair count at either the 3-month or 6-month endpoint. The treatment costs thousands of dollars per decade. The plant grows by your front door. What hair loss actually costs you. You already know the options. You have seen the commercials, walked past the shelves at CVS, maybe even ordered a subscription that shows up automatically every 30 days. Minoxidil in foam, Minoxidil in liquid, 2%, 5% generic brand name. You know the shelf. You know the price. What nobody talks about is the other cost. The one that does not show up on a credit card statement. Androgenetic alopecia affects approximately 50 million men and 30 million women in the United States alone. It can begin in the teenage years. By 50, more than half of men show some measurable level of hair loss. Every mirror becomes a negotiation. Every photograph becomes a question of angle and lighting. Every video call triggers a small private adjustment nobody else sees but you feel every single time. That is not vanity. That is identity. The global alopecia market was valued at $9.48 billion in 2024. Projected to reach $16 billion by 2030. Industries that large do not grow from minor inconveniences. They grow from desperation, from people willing to pay almost anything month after month to hold on to something slipping away. That is the model, and you are the subscriber. The treatment. They built an industry around Minoxidil, received FDA approval for male pattern baldness in 1988. You probably know it as Rogaine, though generics have long since taken over the shelves. Here is what the marketing materials never say in large font. Minoxidil temporarily increases follicular activity. The moment you stop using it, the benefits reverse. Stop paying and you start losing again. That is not a cure. That is a subscription to your own hair. A man who starts at 30 and continues through 70 spends between $15,000 and $25,000. Not for restoration, for maintenance, for the privilege of renting results from a company with every financial incentive to ensure you never stop needing them. The math is that simple. The math is that brutal. The plant by your front door. What grows wild along Mediterranean coastlines, documented in medical texts for over 2,000 years, still processed into hair tonics by traditional families across southern Europe, and passed from grandmother to daughter to granddaughter? What are you currently pulling out of your garden and throwing away? Rosemary. Not an exotic extract, not a patented compound from a laboratory, the same rosemary on your porch. The same aromatic shrub you walk past every morning without a second thought. Medieval herbalists documented its application to scalp conditions in manuscripts still held in university archives. Mediterranean families applied rosemary preparations to hair for generations, without needing a clinical trial to confirm it. The clinical trial now exists anyway. What the science actually found. In 2015, researchers published a study with one objective: investigate the clinical efficacy of rosemary oil in treating androgenetic alopecia and compare it directly with 2% minoxidil. 100 patients. 50 received rosemary oil, 50 received minoxidil. 6 months. Professional microphotography at baseline, 3 months and 6 months. Measured, documented hair count. Not a survey, not self-reported results. At 3 months, neither group showed significant change. Expected. Hair follicles operate on their own timeline. At 6 months, both groups showed a significant increase in hair count compared to baseline. The headline finding: no significant difference between the groups at either endpoint. Rosemary performed identically to the clinical standard. Then the secondary finding: scalp itching was more frequent in the minoxidil group at both evaluation points. Equal results. Fewer side effects. The plant matched the outcome and won on tolerability. These are the words of peer-reviewed researchers publishing in a scientific journal, How a Kitchen Herb Produces Clinical Results. Rosemary works through 3 validated biological mechanisms at once. The first is DHT inhibition. Dihydrotestosterone is the molecule that miniaturizes hair follicles. Your body converts testosterone into DHT via an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. DHT binds to follicle receptors and gradually shrinks them until they stop producing hair entirely. The active compound in rosemary, 12-methoxycarnosic acid, inhibits that same enzyme. One study found rosemary extract achieved 94.6% inhibition at higher concentrations. Finasteride, a leading prescription option, achieved 81.9%. The plant compound outperformed it. The second is vasodilation. Compounds in rosemary cause mild dilation of the capillary network in the scalp, increasing blood flow to follicles, more oxygen, more amino acids, more growth factors reaching the dermal papilla, the structure controlling hair growth at the base of each follicle. Reduced scalp blood flow is a documented feature of androgenetic alopecia. The follicles are being starved. Rosemary feeds them. The third is anti-inflammatory action. Rosmarinic acid in rosemary reduces prostaglandin D2 at the scalp surface. Prostaglandin D2 is specifically elevated in people with androgenetic alopecia and directly inhibits follicle growth. By reducing that signal, rosemary removes one more barrier between your follicles and healthy production. 3 pathways, 3 documented mechanisms, 1 plant in the yard. Why you never heard this search. PubMed for minoxidil and hair loss. Thousands of studies. Search rosemary oil and hair loss. Hundreds. The ratio does not reflect which works better. It reflects which has a financial incentive behind it. You cannot patent a plant growing wild from Spain to Turkey. Without a patent, there is no monopoly. Without a monopoly, there is no marketing budget. Without a marketing budget, there are no commercials, no pharmacy displays, no sales representatives visiting dermatologists with samples and sponsored trips. The system is not conspiring against you. It is structured around what can be monetized. A plant you grow in a pot cannot be monetized at scale. The research exists. It is simply not profitable to tell you about it. How to use what is already growing. Apply rosemary oil as a leave-in with 2 to 3 minutes of scalp massage. Do not rinse immediately. The compounds need time to absorb. If using essential oil, dilute to 2 to 5% in a carrier oil, such as jojoba or coconut. For every 100 milliliters of carrier, add 2 to 5 milliliters of rosemary essential oil. Massage in circular movements directly on the scalp. Apply before sleep for maximum overnight absorption. Consistency matters more than quantity. Daily application beats occasional larger doses every time. Expect 3 to 6 months before visible change. Take monthly photographs from the same angles in the same lighting. Daily observation misses gradual progress. Monthly photographs reveal it. Rosemary is a perennial. Plant it once and harvest indefinitely. Never remove more than 1/3 of the plant at a time. It recovers within weeks, the only difference that matters. 2 treatments, identical clinical outcomes, equivalent timelines, equivalent routines. One requires a monthly payment for life, with the implicit threat that stopping means losing everything you maintained. The other requires the price of a single plant, or a cutting from a neighbour, or seeds that cost almost nothing. The science is published, the mechanism is understood. The plant is growing in front yards across every temperate region in the United States. You have been walking past it every morning. Now you know what it does.